Alright, so our next episode is going to be a very touchy subject. But it's a touchy subject in a good way. And I think really honestly it's an episode that I think a lot of people can relate to. So let's just get into it. This is Common Ground. So our episode begins talking about the tagline of how pretty much buckball has now basically taken over Equestria, as basically now it's basically Equestria's version of football, where basically everybody is just absolutely crazy for it as the craze is going on.
And with its popularity still on the rise, Buckball Pants want, nay demand, an institution catering to their new obsession. And the ponies of Appaloosa answered the call, delivering a state-of-the-art locale where fans Equestriola can celebrate their passion, the Buckball Hall of Fame. Though, given the game's recent nature, the only inductees so far will be the members of the current championship team from Ponyville.
I'm not much of a sports person, but as far as the Hall of Fame stuff goes, isn't it only reserved for players who end up retiring? And if the Ponyville team is still active, then they're not really into the Hall of Fame. And really, does that mean that the Ponyville team is like the only buckball team in it, and that basically just means that every other team in Equestria just sucks? Because that's kind of what this episode is indicating, that apparently even with this popularity of buckball, because every other team just sucks, that only one team is in the Hall of Fame, and said team is still active. This episode's already raising a lot of questions that it kind of needs answers to.
Do you think they know we're here? I think they have a pretty good idea.
A pretty good idea about what?
So, after the fame and after leaving the popularity of the movie theater, essentially fans of buckball want the Ponyville team to sign, and Snips and Snails are back. Well, given that Snails is the unicorn on the buckball team, I would have expected him to be on there, but let's be real here, Snips was the more annoying of the two, and I would have thought that for the longest time that we would have forgotten about him.
Autographs, eh? Snail, you thinking what I'm thinking?
What, the sound of one hoof clapping?
Yeah, no! How many of you would pay for an autograph from my best friend Snails?
So essentially, Snips basically wants Snails to sign autographs for her own ponies to basically give him money. You know what? I wouldn't have expected anything less.
Wow, that's a lot of writing.
I'm so proud they decided to honor us. I never thought I'd get to be in anything like a Hall of Fame.
Again, if you were going to be in the Hall of Fame, it would be after you retire. This whole thing just raises a bunch of questions. So Applejack basically, as Snips keeps getting Snail to sign stuff, Rainbow Dash has to go basically to the Museum of Buckball to basically get something for Applejack because she couldn't be a part of the episode and basically has to do a solid for her. But Pinkie Pie points out there's actually some pony already waiting outside.
The doors aren't even open yet. What kind of sportsman camps out for a museum?
The real question is, what kind of sports fan doesn't?
Quivel Pants?
Rainbow Dash, fancy meeting you here.
So, yeah, this marks the return of Quivel Pants, and I think this is a good time to talk about something. It is that if you may have noticed from some of my past reviews, you may have known that in spite of a lot of positivity the episode has brought in, you may have noticed that I am not the biggest fan of frickin', I don't know the name of the episode. The episode that Quivel Pants was in, and because I'm basically an idiot, but like I said, this is kind of a good time to point it out because even though Stranger Than Fanfiction, that's what it was. Yeah, so getting back to the point, you may have noticed that in spite of the positivity, I was not the biggest fan of Stranger Than Fanfiction. In spite of many people saying it was the best episode of Season 6, I thought it was the most overrated episode of the season, and Quivel Pants was part of the problem. Mainly just because I was just not a big fan of the whole algorithm of Quivel Pants being the fandom that basically says the first 3 seasons of a show is fine, the rest suck, and Rainbow Dash essentially being me that will basically watch whatever. So, yeah, you may have noticed I was not the biggest fan of the episode, or Quivel Pants. I mean, in his defense, we did just meet him and it was only just 1 episode, and to be fair, I have gotten past it somewhat, and I'm a little bit more lenient on the Quivel Pants. But yeah, you're probably wondering what this daring do fanatic is doing all the way down to Appaloosa to basically go to a museum.
I'm the biggest fan there is.
It's a buckball field. And you are?
Oh, sure. But with all the bucking and the balling on the buckball field, which is where they play buckball.
I feel like this is kind of a conversation if anyone who is a brony who doesn't know anything about sports is talking to a sports fanatic.
I wanted to be first inside to experience the grand history of the sport. I guess only a real fan would understand that.
Given how we just learned about the sport about 3 seasons ago, and it was only shoved into the background and only brought up again until this episode, it's not really much to say.
Oh.
But then we get this shocking revelation.
Oh, perfect timing. Rainbow Dash, I'd like you to meet Clear Sky, the most amazing pony I've ever met.
You met Daring Do, so that's probably an exaggeration. No offense. None taken. When it comes to describing your special sun pony, a little exaggeration is normal. And I feel the same way about you. And who is this? This is my daughter, Winsprit.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of a good time to point something out that actually behind the scenes is kind of a sad thing, but also a beautiful thing. So these 2 characters are Clear Sky and Windsprint. And basically, Quivel Pants is just getting into a new relationship with Clear Sky. And the backstory behind this episode, from what I saw in the Voice of Reasons review, is actually kind of sad. Is that Quivel Pants' voice actor, his first wife at the time, tragically lost her life at 46 due to a combination of a use of basically medication and other stuff. But basically it was complications. And his first wife ended up tragically passing away with his daughter. And recently, before the episode's airing, Quivel Pants' voice actor ended up remarrying with his daughter, and so you could probably tell where this episode's going to lead, but I think it's actually kind of a beautiful thing that the show actually wanted to do something nice for basically the whole family. And that basically, this episode basically kind of delves with talking about the conversation of kids who are basically now in a situation with their parents getting involved with step-parents. And I think the situation keeps it right at home, but I think we'll dive deeper into it as the episode goes along.
And she is pretty amazing, too.
Win, did you thank Quivel for camping out so we'd be first in line? Thanks.
No problem. I probably would have done it anyway. I mean, I can't wait to see the... That sounds just... I mean, oh, wow. There is a lot to see.
I'd rather see the game.
Yeah, we'll get more into Winsprit. I think probably one of the things that I do have to critique in regards of Winsprit, one of the first things in the earlier episodes, is kind of a thing that the entire episode is that Winsprit, her voice actress, I know that she's a kid and I guess that she's trying, but her entire performance seems really flat, and it's kind of distracting.
Oh, well, I mean, sure, that makes sense. We could just go to the tournament instead.
No, Quivel planned this whole thing for us, and you could be a little more appreciative.
So they go inside the museum as Quivel Pants tries to be an expert, and Winsprit doesn't want to have anything to do with them.
Check out all the exhibits. All of them?
You know, I'd like a chance to catch up with Rainbow Dash. Why don't we split up? We'll cover more ground that way, and...
So, you and Clear Sky, huh?
Oh, yeah. why I need your help. I don't know what any of this stuff is.
What do you mean?
See this? I don't know what it is.
A ball?
What, and this? I have no idea.
It's a basket. How do you not know what these are?
I'm not even 100% sure what bucking is. I literally know nothing about buckball or any other sport.
Yeah, I think we also kind of knew that earlier on, but we do get the explanation as to why he has to put on this facade.
Well, I figured you weren't the sportiest pony in Equestria.
But Windsprint is, and her dad was some big athlete too. I can't compete with that.
Pay attention to that wording. Was. Because this episode this episode basically tries to teach of the relationships of kids or young adults basically having to form a relationship with a step-parent. Because believe me, I've been there before. And basically, Quivel Pants saying the word of Windsprint's dad was a great athlete. That line basically heavily implies that Clear Sky's husband and Windsprint's father is heavily implied that he's dead. So yeah, that's definitely a lot to unpack there. But let's keep going. So because of that, Quivel really wants to try to do everything he can to basically show that he is an athletic pony, and Rainbow Dash is willing to be more inclined to help him out. And basically, Quivel buys a book for basically Windsprint about the rules of buckball.
Oh, a book.
Oh, not just a book, it's a buckball almanac. This thing has every buckball fact and statistics ever recorded.
Wow.
I know, I never realized there was so much math in buckball. I mean, this game's got more numbers than ogres and oubliettes. I guess I should hold it for you, so you don't have to carry it.
Can we go to the game now? Sure, honey. Listen, Q, this trip was a lovely idea, and the book was sweet, but you don't have to try so hard. Everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. This will basically be another problem with the episode, but this is what I will give Quivel Pants this, is that he's trying. In this relationship, he wants to make it work, and he wants to build the relationship with Windsprint. At least he's trying. He's trying too hard, but he is trying because he wants to make it work. It's a lot more than I can say about some other situations, but I'll get more deep into it when we get closer to the climax of the episode. So realizing that Quivel Pants is not really the most athletic pony in Equestria, Rainbow Dash basically decides to help train him to try to get him more into shape and know more of the rules of buckball.
Pretty sight is, we just need to see what your skills are. Every pony's got something. Speed. Strength. Agility. Of course, some ponies can do it all.
You're amazing, but what about me?
Right. We should probably start small.
This is another positive I will give this episode, is that Rainbow Dash seems a lot more reserved. Yeah, she's still boasting and she's still talking about it herself, but she's not willing to go all the way into it with herself and is willing to put it aside to help out a friend that she wants to help out. So essentially, she's basically grown from all the boasting that she's done in the earlier seasons and knowing when to dial it back to get herself focused on the situation. So we see that, as we basically kind of expected, Quivel is not exactly the most, pretty much athletic pony, as he tries to kick a buckball and could barely kick it 10 centimeters. And then we try agility where...
Do I still have to run?
Yep. Can we get on with this? Bill and I did so well with the autographs, we decided to expand. And these souvenirs are not going to sell themselves.
And it's funny how he's only doing it for only Snails and not Pinky and Fluttershy, basically pushing them to the side.
I fucking hate you, Thomas. Thomas, you suck!
It's kind of what I want to say to Snips right now, but let's keep going. But just as predictably as we thought, we see that even with basically shouting speed over and over again like he's the Flash, basically Quivel Pants doesn't seem to know how to run, as Snips ends up beating him. We then see him basically try to do strength, but he can't lift more than 2 books, because most likely he's out of shape.
This is hopeless. I don't have any skills, not agility, not speed. I can't even lift more than 1 book, and I love books.
If we had time to train, I know I could mold you into the perfect sports pony. Or at least a sportier pony.
Who knows how long that would take? I need to get Wynn to like me now.
So basically, then Rainbow Dash decides to basically take the family inside the game to watch basically Ponyville play. And the rest of the teams that are playing in buckball pretty much suck.
They keep winning like this, they'll never get off the field.
Wow, the players from Ponyville are so good.
Yeah, so that's kind of another thing I mentioned before, is that her voice acting is so flat. Now, like I said, I get that she's a kid, and I'm pretty sure she is trying, but the delivery, even when the character is supposed to be happy, sounds so flat. It's like, I swear, I just came across a female kid version of Kevin Costner in Waterworld.
They sure are.
So Quivel tries to basically impress at the family more, and basically, Wynn Sprint still wants nothing to do with him.
Like we'd all watch the tournament together.
Oh, I've just been arranging for us to hang out with a few of my close friends from Team Ponyville. That is, if Wynn's up for it.
So then it turns out that basically they're not only meeting with Team Ponyville, but Clear Sky actually says something very interesting to Quivel as they head onto the field.
It's hard to get Wynn's approval. This is so great. Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy are the best players out there. Well.
Oh my god. Like I said, I know she's trying, but she's making Shing Tsai's voice acting sounds like fucking Shakespeare. And that's not a knock to the episode, but that's just how I feel. But listen to how Clear Sky's trying to be understanding and basically saying, Quivel, you don't need to try this hard to impress her.
Oh, you can thank Quivel. Wonderful buckball stars. He's friends with the sportiest ponies around, so he must be pretty sporty too, right? Ooh, so this is Quivel Pants. Rainbow Dash told us overlook how you two spent a whole Daring Do convention geeking out together about books.
For the first half of the episode, and then he decided to be a dick about it for the rest of the episode until near the end to basically prove that Daring Do is real. Yeah, I'm sorry, I still don't like Stranger Than Fan Fiction, and you're not going to get me to change my mind, but we'll go over it another time, because I am not about to make this another diatribe on Stranger Than Fan Fiction. That would be longer than the 12-minute review that I had to redo. So, anyways, essentially, Quivel wants to basically have him and Wynn Sprint play against Ponyville.
Then sports ponies agree. Quivel's a pony you like more and more over time. Knowing sports ponies isn't the same as being one.
Alright, this leads to a complete major problem. The fact of the matter is that what this episode gets right, there's also one thing that it gets wrong. It's the fact that the episode hones in on Quivel's point of view of this relationship between him and Wynn Sprint. And that's not a bad thing. This episode's been doing a great job of showing how hard Quivel is being a step-parent to Wynn Sprint. But that's also a detriment to this episode, because we don't see anything from Wynn Sprint's point of view about how she feels and what she wants. From what we do see, because the majority of the episode focuses on Quivel's point of view and not Wynn Sprint, she basically comes off as let me see, what was it that Reed called Baylor in Survivor San Juan del Sur?
She's being proud.
Yeah, that basically describes Wynn Sprint. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. She basically, even if Quivel is trying too hard, at least he's trying. And basically, Wynn Sprint doesn't want anything to do with him. And yes, I get that's the point of the episode, but but there's a difference of basically being not want anything to do with him and just being completely ungrateful. It's like you want to smack the kids upside the head and be like, hey, he's doing this all for you. At least be a little bit more appreciative. I had to get that out of the way. So essentially, basically what ends up happening is that basically Windsprint and Quivel Pants, along with Sniff, basically decides to do a free-for-all game against Team Ponyville, where essentially the Ponyville team basically wants to throw it to him to essentially make Quivel Pants look good.
Making a fool of myself in front of her, Sky, and a billion buckball fans makes sense.
Don't worry, I've got your flank. I already talked to Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy. They're totally gonna make you look good.
Yeah, and so pretty much I gave away the plan where essentially they basically tried to throw the game to, and they're basically not great actresses.
Oh no, Quibble's wide open and I'll never get there in time to block.
Ooh, looks like our fan team needs to work on their passing.
So we then see Quivel actually shoot a goal!
And the fan team finally scored! For the other side. That makes 3. Team Ponyville win!
Yeah, so he shoots for the other goal. You thought that cliche died in the 90s from movies like Airborne and The Odd Life of Timothy Green. You thought that cliche died in the 90s, but no, they brought it back in 2019. You'd think they would have gotten past this cliche by now. So even when he tries to explain the rule book, basically Windsprint is having none of it.
Force Pony, it's not fun playing this game with you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it's just like what Reed said earlier. She's being a brat. I'm sorry, but that's how it comes across. Because that's a major hindrance with the episode. Because we spent so much time on Quibble's point of view, we never see it from Windsprint's point of view, and we don't really see why this affects her this much. And basically what we've seen, she's basically an unappreciated brat through most of the episode, even though he's trying. He's trying too hard, but he is trying. So essentially after the game, and Quivel basically Rainbow Dash tries to talk to Quivel, who's pretty much about ready to throw in the towel.
The other team was amazing.
Thanks for trying, Rainbow Dash, but I think we can both agree the whole Sportify idea was a big flop.
What? We haven't even gotten started. I've got like 7 more top-notch ideas to turn you into a super...
A pony they both like in their lives. Besides, Sky wants to rethink things, so I'm just beating her to the lunch.
It's beating her to the punch, and it's barely a sports reference. How do you not know that?
Because I don't know anything about sports! And pretending I did just made things worse.
So you should stop pretending. Look, you are terrible at sports. You're uncoordinated, slow, weak,
Okay, again, not really making me feel better.
and you're completely clueless about anything having to do with athletics. But maybe I'm not the pony you should have come to for help.
Yeah, like I said, Rainbow Dash does a great job, because even if she does come across a little bit mean, it is kind of serving up a point. So the episode just tried to rebound, and then the episode finally, almost with only 3 minutes left in the episode, basically decided to get Windsprint's point of view. So let's just hear it, because it is something poignant that I think we should do know.
Quibble thought you'd like it. Well, I don't, and I don't like him. Why do you like him?
Because he's kind and smart, and his friends certainly seem to care about him, which is always a good sign.
I don't care how many ponies care about him. They're not going to make me forget about that.
Oh, sweetheart, I know Quibble's trying too hard, but he doesn't want you to stop loving your dad. He just wants you to like him.
And that's definitely a very poignant lesson to know. Because believe me, I was there, I've been there. Because basically for those who aren't aware, my parents got divorced around 2002. I was only 5 when it happened, and I wasn't old enough to kind of process the whole thing. And since then, all the way going through elementary school from high school, I basically gotten used to it. And my mom basically tried to meet, new people, and basically met a stepdad that I've had probably since about 3rd grade, and their relationship had been really rocky. They were still together a lot of the times, but around 2021, around the time when I basically was trying to look for a job, the straw that broke the camel's back was that basically he forgot my sister's birthday, and my mom basically told him to get out, and we haven't seen him since in the last 2 years. So I've been there before, and I think this message basically shows that the kids or the people who basically want to have a relationship with their step-parents, it's not for them to be a replacement for their parent that's either divorced or not around anymore. They're not trying to be distant from them because they want to have that relationship. And I think this moral definitely is really something that I think kids should be able to understand. And I think it should be greatly appreciated that they're willing to go for that.
And I think maybe there's enough room in your heart to do both.
So then Quivel basically approaches and basically talks to both of them.
I guess it backfired. Do you think we could start over? Maybe we could watch some of the tournament together and you could teach me some sports stuff?
So then we see the family then watching the game as we then see Winsprit and Quivel actually bond.
I probably won't. Oh, look, Pinkie Pie's gonna flip and triple pass the ball into the goal. It's right here. Pinkie flips and triple bounce bucks over 83% of her shots from the northwest section of the field where the wind is blowing from the east.
Huh. I guess this book's kind of cool after all.
Look, Sky, I know you're thinking of calling it quits between us, and after today, I don't blame you. But Wind and I just made a connection.
Calling it quits? What are you talking about?
You said you wanted to rethink things.
Yeah, things like having your friend help you pretend to be a sports pony so Wind would like you.
What? I didn't. What?
What? Mom, look what Quivel showed me. When Fluttershy flies higher than the other Pegasus, Pinkie scores 92% of the time, and it just happened.
Wow, you better watch out or you're going to start to like books.
I guess that wouldn't be so bad.
Huh. Looks like you didn't need sportiness, famous ponies, or lavish gifts to bond with Wind after all.
Technically, he still needed to buy her the book, but that's it.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta admit that ending was adorable. And that was Common Ground. And yeah, this was a good episode. Honestly, it did kind of waver near the end, but I do appreciate what this episode tries to talk about. The relationship that kids or even young adults want to have with their step-parents. Quivel, I think, was a lot better here, showing how much growth that he's had in the intermediate times between Stranger and fan fiction in this episode. Even if he's trying too hard, at the very least, he's trying to have a relationship with Winsprit, and he wants to make it work. It's basically that he's trying to be a step-parent within the relationship, and I do appreciate the effort that he goes out of his way to do so. Clear Sky was definitely a great supporting character who's very basically understanding and honest, and it's great to see how basically Quivel makes her happy. I think really the only things that do hold this episode back is, number one, the amount of plot holes that this episode basically brings in regards to the Sportiness Hall of Fame when it comes to buckball, because that stuff is kind of flying over my head, because much like Quivel, I am not a sports person, but the main thing has to do with Winsprit. Mostly, like I said, most of her acting throughout the episode is very monotone. And like I said, I know that she's a kid, and I know that she's trying, but it's very monotone throughout the entire episode. But I think the major thing that kind of hurts this episode from being great is the fact that because we mainly focus on Quivel's point of view, we never get to see much of Winsprit's point of view up until the last 3 minutes. And a lot of the times throughout most of the episode, she just comes off nothing more as a brat who's not really all that appreciative, and we never really delve deeper into why she feels that way, again, up until the last 3 minutes. And those kind of things kind of make it annoying for me to watch the episode, and it makes me just want to turn it off. But it's not that egregious. It's nothing to take away from the overall message, because, like I said, this episode basically went for the jugular to basically talk about a moral about the relationship between kids and step-parents, and basically a lot of the heavy implications that this episode teach. I think for the most part, they do basically manage to have a payoff. And plus, Quivel as a step-parent tries way harder than some other step-parents that I know because he wants to have a relationship with them. So yeah, so I think as a whole, I probably think the fair thing to do is that I would give Common Ground a B+ at best. It's still a good episode, but there's just some major things that are like holding it back for me. Alright, so that's another one down. Can't believe I'm saying this, but 6 down and only 20 to go. Still seems like a lot, but it's like the closer we get to the end, the more it's gonna hurt. Alright, so next time we are going to be looking at She's All Yak. See you guys next time. Bye.